And so, good Thursday to you all. Happy Thursday. We can't call it Pi Day Friday because A, it's not pie-centric, and it certainly isn't Friday, but good after evening, everyone. This is ADRAMADA. I am Dave Rush, and this is another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything Digital Alchemy. I don't know what to do with that digital alchemy. It's there because it makes ADRAMADA sound right. But it's kind of silly to say when you get down to it, huh? Nonetheless, wow. Always excited when Scott comes on. Scott, with all the tomfoolery behind us, we got to talk this week. You need to be on. I have thoughts. You have thoughts. We must share them. We must combine them. It's a happy, wonderful thing. At any rate, it is Thursday, April 13th. In the year of our Lord 2023, 7 p.m. Central. We're on daylight savings time now. Central, I don't know. It's 7 p.m. wherever I am, and I hope wherever you is, it's a nice time of the day and you're enjoying it. And take a quick little brain break, hang out with us for an hour or so, and then wind it up, get back to what you were doing. Probably, for most of you, sleeping. All right, it's a good start. Tullwood, of course, opens the gates 3.5 hours before showtime. And then Patricia kindly waits for 2 hours after that to check in. Hi, Patricia. Good to see you. You know what? There's something funky about my computer, and Patricia Grace, you always remind me of it and makes me jealous. There's something weird about it. I don't know what it is. I've troubleshot it. I have abandoned it. There's a couple symptoms that, used to be you could run this computer when I first got it nonstop for 3 or 4 weeks without a reboot. Now I can't go 3 days without a reboot at any rate. But one of the manifestations of the symptoms is if I switch to emoji mode, it happens eventually, 30, 40 seconds later, and then it's really, really slow. And then when I switch back, it blanks all the stuff in the chat feed, and I got to wait it out. And so I don't do it. I type in the word grin, solves my problems. Maybe doing this, doing the blah, 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 easy for me to say. Because I use a different interface when I do the show here than when I'm moderating or producing other shows, it's a different animal. But I'm afraid to try it, so I'm not gonna right now. We're working out our tech problems. How's the audio? I didn't do much experimenting, just fiddled with some levels before I started the show. Everything looked like it was working. Anyways, back to business here. So Patricia got in and got some hail. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad you seem to be fine. You have power, and you are not in a crisis situation that pulls you away from participating in the show. So we're going to look at that and make presumptions that it is all good. And rain too. Yeah, we got that rain here a few days ago, and oh wow, just 3 days of nonstop, including a night full of immense, powerful thunderstorms. And by some odd reason, the only power failure I had was a microsecond or two that caused one of the many clocks to shut down. A couple of computers needed to be brought back to life. You know what? We should talk about that. I won't do a full show on it, but let's just cover it right now. If you go into your UEFI CMOS setup or your BIOS setup, there is no more BIOS setup anymore, and you go look at the power options, nobody ever changes this default option, which is if power goes off, leave it off. But you know that that's not a mandatory option. You can have it so that as soon as power is restored and detected, it'll boot right back up again. There's a downside to that, of course. If you're in an up and down power situation, that's probably not real good for your computer, especially if it's happening, so frequently that while it's coming up, we've lost power again and goes down. But it may be appropriate in some circumstances. I've never done it, but I always think about it. Now, what is that? The mowers just left. My good friend, the mower people. And now I'm hearing them again. Maybe they're doing the neighbors. I was really concerned that they were going to do it right here in front of my handy little window, right while the show was going on. So Scott Jernigan is here. In as Scott, not Scarhart. Everybody same. I have to actually read things that Tullowit writes. Usually I just, okay, Tullowit spoke and I move right on. But sometimes he has a question or a comment in there that's pithy and interesting, and I've got to do that. Muhammad El Abayad, my favorite name to pronounce. Nice to see you. Assalamu alaikum, my friend. Yeah, I can do that. I live there. Digital archive. Oh, I'm not changing the name. It's such a hanger-on phrase. Audio's good. Thank you. Dorky aardvark. Yeah, maybe I should stick with my policy of not reading Tullowit lines. No, decidedly not. Devil's advocate. Oh, you people are so creative. I'm embarrassed to be in your presence. I kind of like the devil's advocate. I can see posting it on LinkedIn right now. Dave Rush, ask me anything. Devil's advocate. I probably would get a very narrow segment of the population. Really? I want to go see that. Well, it's a fun show today. I don't have a lot of tech news to share. I was reading tech news on and off to the evenings all week. And I found a few things that are kind of worth sharing, but there was nothing that I said, I really want to read all of this article and share it. Some of them I did read the whole article, and I didn't even make links to share with you because there was just not that much gobbledygook about it. All right, that's saved. Yeah. What do we want to do here? All right. 2 p.m. here. Nice. So over at the other world, my daytime professional world, we have a lot of irons in the fire, and they're all good and they're all fun. We do YouTube shows, and we've got lots going on with Discord and all the people who are directly involved or peripherally involved, we prompt them for input, and we take it. Somebody used a phrase the other day in a meeting that I hadn't heard worded like this before, and it's such a good phrase. I'm totally stealing it. They were casting for input and said, look, does anybody have any ideas? There are no unwelcome ideas. I like that. So, there's no bad ideas we've always heard about. And that's a lie. There are some really bad ideas out there, but no unwelcome ideas. So among those welcome ideas that seems to pop up when we do platforms such as YouTube presentations, it's the magic of we want viewers because we want to educate, we want to disseminate information, and it's a lot of fun. The more people, the more interactive we get. And in order to get YouTube to give their blessing and say, hey, people who are here searching, you should watch Dave's show or Scott's show or whoever else's show has a name that you recognize, you have to put keywords, SEO happy words, in your descriptions. And similarly, there are certain words that if you put them in there, we're not going to recommend you with our search. So if, for instance, I put in Raspberry Pi in here, certainly do that on a regular occasion. That's helpful, obviously, for people who come to YouTube and they do a search on Raspberry Pi oriented videos. But a couple other things have to happen in order for mine to make the high points of the list. One of them is I got to have a large enough audience because YouTube isn't going to say, you really ought to watch Dave Rush's show. He's got 6 viewers this week, and he references Raspberry Pi in there. And you know me, I'm not particularly politically correct, so I got to read very carefully words that I might have in my description that could be offensive to some. So I thought today I would just do one experiment. I thought I would go out and research popular keywords that fit within what we do. And I've added them to the description. I'll let you read it and see if you can figure out what they are. I certainly didn't expect any changes. I just made that a couple hours ago. By the end of the week, we'll have about 10 times the viewership as we have at this very moment. That's still not going to get me very high in the search results, but it's an interesting world, and I can't tell you how much this bothers me, and maybe it shouldn't, but I'm getting a lot of activity of link requests on LinkedIn in the last 6 weeks or so. And most of them are doing so because for one reason or another, they've become aware that I have a YouTube show. Unfortunately, 7 out of 10 of those link requests are coming from people who sell SEO services. Let me write your descriptions or give you a template, and I'll give you the magic keywords. So they're not interested in the show. They're not interested in ADRAMADA or tech. They're just interested in contacting me so I can give them money and they can put keywords in here. Now, I don't think I can do everything in the world, but I did find sites today that are interesting because they help you identify top keywords and top anti-keywords. The first one I went to, I was, okay, let's type in, I don't know, Raspberry Pi, and 70% out of 100 rating, or 70 out of 100, not such a good word. Typed in another word that I thought would have more value. Hey, bingo, that's 100 out of 100. It's a good word to have in here. In fact, the word was Linux. And then I typed in a third word to start experimenting. It's a shame, I can't put a category like technology or IT, and it says, here's the top list of search SEO words. So you got to put in a word and find out if it's good or not. So I typed in whatever third word I typed in, and it said, oh, I'm sorry, you've used your 2 requests for the day. Ask again tomorrow, or give me your credit card number and I'll let you search for more words. Well, I'm sure there's freebies out there, but I had other things to do. So what a horrible world that we have to do this. And then tonight I got this survey, a creator survey from YouTube. Hey, do you like the service? What do you not like about it? What's good? What do you feel strongly about it? And I said, you know what? I'm going to offer my opinion. And the fact that I can't get rated well unless I use your magic keywords was certainly in there. And I made it through. It's a 15-minute survey, and I made it through about 11 minutes. And then it got to a question that I could not answer with the choices that they gave. It was 5 choices ranging from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And I didn't know the answer to that. It asked me some question that, do you think we do this particular thing very well? The answer is, I have no idea. Haven't a clue. So I left that question unanswered. Answer the rest of the questions on the page, hit next page, and it says, no. You can't go on without answering that question. And I stared at it and I thought about it. I said, you know what? I don't know the answer to this question. I'll just see if hitting go again, next again, has any power. Maybe they realize I'm frustrated and it won't answer the question or can't answer the question. And it said, no. You cannot continue until you answer this question. And so I abandoned it. I said, I can't give this an answer. It's not fair for me to make up an answer. I'm sure it wouldn't hurt anything statistically speaking. Presumably they've surveyed thousands of people, and this isn't going to skew it. But I just got this thing that said, I'm only going to provide accurate answers for you. And I can't answer that one. So they didn't get my feedback on my thoughts of SEO super secret keywords. Jason is here. Jason, we were having a little fun on Discord the other day, and I'm sure you know that I absolutely meant nothing insulting by any stretch, but I'm terrible sometimes when I'm writing in communication because the inflection and the hand signals and the body language in my head don't make it in writing. So I was not bashing your buddy in any way who recommended the site where you got that motherboard. I'm sure you know that, but here's my opportunity to say it with body language and intonation and all that good stuff. So, hey, let us know if you got that motherboard problem solved. I don't have one here, but I've been working on a project for work, building some prototypes for some really cool things. And we haven't had a name for the thing. Nobody's really put any thought into it. It's just the prototypes that Dave is making. Okay. And then somebody, what is that? And then you have to give it an explanation. And so yesterday I came up with a working title, product name for this thing that I'm making. I'll show it to you in probably next week's show. I should complete the last prototype hopefully Wednesday of next week, and then it's not a big super corporate secret. It's a pretty cool thing. I think we want to get the word out. Anyway, the product name is Total Mobo. It doesn't answer well in all arenas. Some people are looking at it and saying, if you change that B to one other letter, somebody's going to consider it an opportunity to make an insulting name, and I can see that. So the name probably won't last, but for now, Dave has prototyped Total Mobo, and it's a cool thing. Reading messages here. Please make sure to hit that like button. Thanks. I mostly don't push that here, but yeah, that's the other thing, right? You got to have a lot of likes. So big audience, lots of likes, high percentage of pluses to minuses. Pluses? Okay, so let's deal with the misspeak. I am doubly horrifically embarrassed about my mispronunciation of chitin last week. Not only am I embarrassed that I mispronounced it, and many thanks to Catherine and Scott, to Patricia and Scott, for correcting me. I was calling it chitin, and that's clearly not right. After the show, it was back in my brain, and I remembered that I talked about this same technology 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, on Drama, and mispronounced it exactly the same way. So double down on the mess up. Ugh. Hopefully I will never talk about chitin again until it becomes a mainstream product and we are all fully dependent on it. Same with pluses. So I can't hit my own like button anyways. I have to be watching it as a viewer on another window, and we know how hard I try to save CPU and RAM cycles here by not running much during the show. And so be it. Well, at any rate, it's a tech show. It's a general tech show. We talk about just about any kind of technology, and that was sort of the point of it, is I had to get some SEO technical terms in the description. And here's one: cybersecurity. It's the most important tech term in the grand scheme of all things. Sorry. I have like 6 different windows open at once, and a little bit of the bottom of the chat feed show up, where Scott reminds me correctly that English is my friend. Loving my wee BMax PC. Yeah. That was a great thing. Are you using it to watch the show? What are you doing with it, Patricia? I know it's a cool little machine. All right, I'm not going to read all that nonsense. Don't need to. Where are we at time-wise? We are 18 minutes after the hour. Tech news of the week. I'm just going to give you headlines here, mostly, let you think about it. Okay, you're running Mint Vera and Win 10 Pro. Dual boot? Or is one in a VM? I'll bet you're dual booting. Almost chitinous. All right, so tech news of the week. Headline: grifters using ChatGPT to work multiple full-time jobs at once. That's pretty impressive. I didn't read the article. I left it to my own imagination to see what was going on there. Is this folks who are are working very hard at making Chat GPT do the work in the 4 different jobs? And is that a net payoff? If so, am I working just as hard making Chat GPT work for me as I would if I did these multiple full-time simultaneous jobs myself? I don't know. I kind of like the food for thought without reading somebody else's analysis of it. I'm going to chew on that thing. I got an article for you. I'll put the link up right now. This one I read. I like this one. Most people here, most people who come to this show, there we go, have at least some interest in pursuing, as a hobbyist, as a job hunter, as a career hunter, some aspect of cybersecurity, including, of course, penetration testing, pen testing. And I found a really nice, concise article that talks you through a typical pen test that you might want to run with all the utilities that you're going to run and what you're looking for and how to generate the report. And it includes in there common mistakes with these utilities and with this process to avoid. Really nice article on using Kali in a very specific, step-by-step, pedagogical manner. I learned that word from Scott years ago, 10 years ago. They were using it in every conversation, and it wasn't something that was part of my lexicon. Certainly should have been, as I've been an instructor for 25, 30 years, minus the pilot time, and even then I was instructing, but did not use or know the word pedagogy. Now I can't stop using it. So it was a good pedagogy there. I have on my list of things to talk about in the not too distant future packages that are installable in Linux. We're going to install a package today. There are 9 or more ways to install that package. Different distros have their preferred methods. You can add other methods to them. We've done that a lot in Raspberry Pi. We usually use apt, the advanced package thing. Somebody look up APT for me and tell me what the T is for. But we use apt or apt-get. And sometimes there are things that aren't in the Raspberry Pi OS APT repository, but they exist elsewhere and they'll run on a Raspberry Pi. And so we need a different installer or package manager. And so I have used pip on there and a couple others, but pip and apt are the big two that I've always used on Raspberry Pis. We're going to play with Ubuntu tonight. They have apt. They have also invented, sometime before 2016, their own proprietary package manager. Every package manager has benefits and disadvantages. There's no perfect one out there. And they said, we don't love the one that everybody uses, apt and apt-get, so we're going to make our own. It's called Snap. And officially it's called Snapcraft, one word, but everybody just calls it Snap, or the packages are called Snaps. And there's lots of others. So I'm going to do a show on that and talk about all the major players in the package management, which means install, uninstall, search, modify, all kinds of things like that. And there's important and significant differences. Well, there's another one out there called FlatHub. FlatHub is a location where flat packs are stored. It's a repository, and flat is the command, the actual package manager. So FlatHub has just released a beta of the new version of FlatHub, and it's gorgeous. It's wonderful. It's incredible. Is it going to be the end-all be-all? Don't know. But compared to where FlatHub was, it's exciting, it's interesting, and I feel nice. And I'm going to share the link to the article that I read about the new beta with you. Alex Cunningham is here. I'll get back to reviewing posts here in just a couple of seconds. Just want to get to the rest of the basic news. Okay. Nice typo in my document here. There's always interesting news about AI in the last few months. Much more so probably in the last 3 than we've had, but those in the community, lots going on. Headline this week. Now, I gave you one, right? I used a particular, not a particular gentleman, but a number of people who are using ChatGPT, which is a 2 thing, right? It's AI and it's a language, a large language module, an LLM, that allows us to communicate with it in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of dialects and languages and affectations and whatever. And similarly, it will communicate back with us in our preferred thing. So Chat GPT isn't just a one thing. It's 2 very tightly melded technologies. Well, here's the other interesting news on there. I've been waiting for this, and it's probably existed already for quite some time, but it hasn't hit mainstream much. Do I do this sidetrack? Yeah. Scott, what? If you would answer this for everybody on the chat feed, the leading industry that historically has caused growth and innovation, technological innovation in the video marketplace, video cards, graphics, things like that, may surprise you. And this also holds true for cameras, storage media, things like that. Do you dare type it in, Scott? I'll watch for a second or two while I wait for that. So AI has been in the news of late. There it goes. That's it, Scott. So one industry that doesn't really seem to be directly involved with another one can have a tremendous amount of influence on another one. Yeah, feel free to delete that. Delete Dave Rush character from Holodeck. Thank you very much. So we've seen of late that they are using AI to generate images. Good images, art. Make me a cartoon that shows somebody connecting, not a cartoon, but a stick figure plugging in an Ethernet cable, right? So, hey, now I got a graphic. AI did that for me. When we connect it to voice synthesizers, not only can it now speak to us or communicate with us in a textual fashion, it can do so in a voice, and AI is learning how to mimic voices to provide pitch and timbre and tone and speed. But that timbre, that's the magic one, because when you can adjust timbre, Timbre, you musicians know that. Cat videos, thank you. Then we can mimic, duplicate real voices. This is where deep fakes, combine those 3 things together and you have something powerful. AI generates a deep fake of a face and of a voice, and suddenly we don't need a real person to do a presentation. Somebody can AI a Dave Rush, got to have that real nasal voice and not much hair and certainly nothing brown left, and have it say, Raspberry Pi computers are terrible. I would never use one. And well, so here's where somebody has carried that, because here's the industry that impacts or is an unintended consequence sometimes, as well as an unintended driver. Headline, finally getting around to it. A mother has said that she was 100% convinced by an AI voice clone of her daughter that scammers used in a fake kidnapping. They say attempt is in the headline. It's not it. So basically it was, they faked her voice with AI. They had her crying and describing the situation, and then you hear the bad guy saying, "Give me that phone," and he talks back and said, we're going to do terrible things to your daughter unless you give me a check for however much money or cash or whatever it is. So this might be on the other end of the saying, it's law of unintended consequences, but as we all know, any technology is ripe for abuse. All right, that's all the tech news that I've got going on. So let's get caught up here with posts 30, and it's about time to start a show here. I would hire someone who could do that. They got twice the work some, sure. I love that. Abuse the abusers and take advantage of it. Love it. Someday I hope to become a Linux expert using that distro. Okay, then I'd be known as Kali Lama. Or maybe not. Yeah, it's just wild out there. Oh, shame. Language. No. It was an academic discussion, and it's all gone. Advanced package tool. Thank you, Scott Jernigan. Snap is some kind of container app system. It's like Microsoft Store. It's bigger and better than that. But one of the things that it does, you're absolutely correct, is when it installs a package into your system, it does so in a sandbox environment. And for that reason, it has to provide all internal and external dependencies. So, benefit. Everything you need is there in the Snap. Bad news. Everything that you need may have already, or much of what you needed, may have already been in your system. And so now you're taking up space that potentially wasn't necessary. That's such as life. And then the fact that APT, when it installs and runs, it does not install a built-in sandbox. So app packages are directly exposed to ring 0 of the CPU, whereas Snap packages, when they run ring 1, 2, or 3, depends. Computer, delete Dave Rush character from the holodeck. Poor Patrick, not getting any younger. A black hole image has been enhanced by AI. Okay, so I'm a skeptic of many of the things that AI comes up with. It's probably right more than it's not, but I revel in the reports of the horrible mistakes that it makes. And I'm sorry, it doesn't know any more than people do, and any more than what's been published in Nature and Physics Today. And so its analysis, maybe. Patricia Grace, I had ChatGPT write me a schedule. I'd left out breakfast and lunch, and it added that in. I feel slightly better about it. More power to you. Pass. I wonder if in the future we'll have new Cary Grant movies. Absolutely. Look, we have dead Michael Jackson doing commercials and Super Bowl appearances. So yeah, sure, you betcha, yeah, All right, well, let's get into showtime. Yeah, I can skip all this nonsense, but I'm bringing it in next week. So we're going to do 2 projects today. One, there is a built-in VNC server in Ubuntu Linux, probably the most popular consumer Linux out there. And it's an unusual one because it's X11 RDP based, remote desktop protocol. What that means to us in practical terms is that you can use the Microsoft RDP client to access your Ubuntu virtual machine. And then project number 2 is Microsoft Teams is available to run on Ubuntu, not from Microsoft. They killed that capability, but some intrepid soul out there said, I'm not letting it die, and he maintains it all by himself. And we'll get into the story here in just a moment. So today, focus project. I know I put a lot of effort into Linux stuff when I should be doing a little more broad-based technology. I like this stuff. My show. But I certainly can and will do other things that aren't Linux-based. We started our first show doing binocular optics. Did that. Talked a little bit about that stuff already. We've done KVMs here 2 times before. This will be the last time unless we need one. So I'm not going to tell you. I'm sorry, not KVMs. VNC. I guess I should tell you that I have 3 Linux boxes up here surrounded by Raspberry Pi boxes, which in turn are surrounded by some Windows boxes. My 3 Linux boxes are on a KVM. I like it. It's practical. I got 1 monitor. I got 1 keyboard. I got 1 mouse for all of them. I don't do things on them simultaneously unless I start something on it and let it run in the background. So KVM's got some value, but it's just as easy in many cases. Instead of going over, flipping on the monitor, pull the keyboard out from under there, stick it here, put the mouse from over there over to here. Now go press the button to select which Linux box I want to play with, and now I do this. A lot easier, a lot better to simply VNC over to it. Well, yeah, it is better. But here's the problem. When I first installed this version, this distro of Ubuntu 22.04, it was a new release. Now, they released it as a new release before that as 21.10. It's a not stable release, and it's only a 9-month release. And then they work most of the bugs out on that, and then they release 22.04. The Ubuntu cycle always starts with the year it was released and the numerical month that it was released. Every 2 years in the spring release, the 04 release, that's a long-term release, multiple years. Well, this one had some bugs, as they always do. And one of the bugs was the platform that we're going to play with tonight, the VNC server. When I connected to it using either a VNC client or the Microsoft RDP client, it was immeasurably slow. I would click on something to launch an application, and eventually, 20, 30 seconds later, the app would open. Then I would maybe the app was an editor, and now I start typing. I can type 2 or 3 paragraphs packed with typos before the first character starts to show up on the screen. And so it was awful. So I abandoned that. I used Monitor and my KVM whenever I had to get into the graphical world. If I don't need graphical, obviously I can SSH into it, and that works like a dream. And so a couple weeks ago, I said, you know what? Let's check that again. Let's just assume that it's still bad, and let's try to get a traditional VNC server installed. And I spent a lot of time doing that with no success. So I'm all done with it, and I said, well, let's see how bad. Maybe something has changed in my computer. Maybe something has changed in all the various patches and updates that I've done to the Ubuntu machine. Let's fire it up and hit it with the RDP client from Windows. Bam! Works like a direct connected keyboard and monitor. It's been fixed. Maybe it was a patch to Windows. Maybe it was a patch to Ubuntu. I don't know. I don't care. It works. And from there, I had 2 tools that I could share with you. One, I could use that to show you my Ubuntu desktop as part of the stream. And 2, I could show you how to take advantage of this. So that's where we're going with that. Then we'll hit the Teams thing. I'm looking at the time here. We may wind up pushing Teams back to next week. But there's all the background story. When did I write all that? All right. Well, first of all, let's just fire things up. Let me get a MSTSC. There we go. I need a password here. There's a thing that I'm going to do here that you're not going to see live in real time, and I apologize for that. But what I'm doing right now, I'll just describe it to you. I'm clicking the start search window and I'm typing in MST, and it knows right off the bat. I don't have to type the rest of the command, but it's MSTSC. That's the remote desktop connection, or the RDP client. I hit the enter on it, and on my 27-inch screen, it comes up in a box that's about 3.5 inches wide, and it wants to know the computer that I want to establish an RDP connection to. And so I can either type in the IP address or the DNS name or whatever, and then there's a button down here to connect. Next thing that happens is it connects and checks to make sure that there's a VNC server running on there that it connects to, and then it gives me a slightly bigger box that asks me for a username. What account are you going to use when we connect here, so I know what permissions you'll have. So I put in my account name, and then what's the password? And that's the important thing that I'm going to have to show you today. You can set a password. Ubuntu can set a password. And we got to find out what it is if Ubuntu sets it. All right, so there I am. I'm in. Let me share that with you. MSTSC. Okay, it's already showing up there. So I don't have this maxed out at full screen. Let me see what happens if I do. If I don't have to go back. That'll be interesting. Wow. Okay. I'm going to shrink this for just a second. And I'm going to ask you a question. Oh, I can see it. Okay, wonderful. Never mind. I can see what I need to see. That's great news. All right, so let me get back over there. MSTSC, good. Now I can't see my notes, so I'm going to have to wing this for the first part of it. What I want to show you here is there's only one thing, maybe 1.5 things that you have to do to an Ubuntu box that's running a graphical user interface. And this is the GNOME interface. I'm going to talk about that for a second also. You're going to click in the Show Applications bar, box, grid, whatever makes you happy. There's an official name for it. I don't remember. And then we're going to go up here, type the search. And I'm just going to type in the letter S. We need to get to the settings. And when you go into settings, nothing will be selected here in this left-hand panel. You've got to go down to sharing, and that brings up the menu that you see here. Remote desktop, by default, will be turned off. So you click that line, and here's where you turn it on. So you can't do what I'm doing right now and turn it on. It'll be off. You've got to do that with a real monitor and mouse and keyboard to get this on. And then once it's on, now you can use the remote desktop console from Microsoft and connect to it. Should I enable legacy VNC protocol? Yeah, you should, so that we can use regular VNC clients. And should we allow keyboard and mouse inputs as opposed to just viewing? Yes. The other trick here is setting the password. Depending on how you have your boot up configured, this password will vary. If you have your boot up configured so that when it boots up, nothing happens until you type in a login name and a password, you can then set a password here that won't change. But I don't do that because of power failures and because I want it to come back up when I hit the power on button again. I don't want it to prompt me for a username and password. I'm comfortable with it here in the house that nobody's going to hack it. But there's the problem. If you use that option, every time it boots up, the VNC password will change with a randomized variation that Ubuntu selects. So if you're doing anything like that, you got to go find out what this password is. And L's and I's are a little challenging. This is a lowercase L here. But note that down someplace. And now you'll be able to use remote desktop VNC and to get into this. That's it. So we turn the remote desktop on. We find out what the password is for remote desktop and then use the Microsoft MSTSC RDP client and you're playing remote desktop. It's so good. Let's close out of that and let's close out of that. That keystrokes are passed through. If I do Control-Alt-T, there's terminal. And there are Windows keys on this keyboard that I wanted to use to say, knock it off, Ubuntu. I want to get back in and look at Windows. So when I hit the Windows button, nope, all I see is active apps here in my Linux box. I don't get to play when I'm in full screen using RDP. It's kind of an interesting concept. And so you can see, I got Borderlands. I haven't tried to run Borderlands in the virtual terminal, and I'm not gonna. I don't want this thing crashing when I got other things to do. And I'm probably not going to get into Teams today. I'm looking at the time, and I want to land on time today. Where's the clock up on this one? Somewhere. Don't matter. I see a 46 under there. It says 9:46. That's not right. Wrong time zone. Anyway, you can see I had a chat going here with Andrew Hutz. So let me kill out of here. Let me put this back down to regular size. To close the RDP session, just close the window. You don't have to do any special exits or anything like that. We're going to go back in there because I'm going to show you something else in just a second. Now I got good time. Now I can see everything and everybody. I told you that that's a Genome desktop environment. We've talked about desktop environments a lot over the last 5 weeks. We've used, which all ones? GNU, XFCE, Genome, Mate. There's another one, although the one that's on the Raspberry Pi. It's not Pixel anymore. They changed it. If you use them all regularly, you'll recognize them. Mate, for instance, has, I wonder what happens if I put my hand down here, in the lower left-hand corner, a menu option, in the upper right-hand corner, a menu option. KDE, if you are a Windows user and want to slowly transition to a Linux environment, you want to use the graphical interface, you want the KDE desktop because it looks like Windows. Everything is, the start button's down here and the system tray buttons are down there, and wow, cool. But what if you don't know what your desktop is? Well, yeah, I think that's where I'm going to go tonight, and we'll skip Teams. We'll do Teams next week. So let me fire up RDP again here. What happens if I type RDP? It knows. Connect to the server. I'm going to do this one just a tad different. Put in my account name, DRushTX. Put in the password, which I've hopefully saved. Let me see if that's it. Yes. I could tell this thing to remember me, but I wanted to show you. And I don't want it to remember me because every time it reboots, it generates a new password in there. All right, where are we going here? We're going back to settings. I'm not going to do full screen on this thing. I'm just going to scroll up and down to get what I need. In order to find out your desktop environment, there are a bunch of command line utilities that will do it for you lickety-split. None of them work on my system. They don't provide the information. And I guess I can show you one real quick here. Oh, gosh. Cancel that. What did I just hit? I want Control-Alt-T. There we go. I showed you this utility a couple of weeks ago, NeoFetch. It's not built into Linux. You got to do an apt install. Ah, it worked. Why did that work? I ran this dang thing all day, and I only got the first 5 lines of this thing, but here it is. The DE is Genome 42.5. Cool. probably all the other commands would work now too, but that's probably the quickest and easiest one. I like that one. So awesome. Let's close out of there. Let me show you how to find out using the graphical interface. We're in the settings utility. We go down to About, all the way down at the bottom. And if it's GNOME as your desktop interface, it just says GNOME version. If it's not, it might say Mate version. It might say KDE version. It might say XFCE version, whatever the case may be. And not surprisingly, it's the same version here. By the way, this isn't the most current version. Most current version is 43.5, not 42.5. And there's lots of people who aren't happy that Ubuntu doesn't provide the most current desktop environment. They prefer stability. Whatever the most current is, it's a little less stable. In fact, there's 43.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and 0.5. And the nice folks over at GNOME say that if you're going to run version 43, run 43.1. It's the most stable. The other ones are advancements, but they're not very stable. So that's what I wanted to show you here. And that's as far as I'm going to take today's presentation today. We'll do Teams next week. It's quick, it's simple, it's fun. I can show you in 5 seconds, but I want you to benefit from it. All right, so yeah, I'm terrified. I tried to look over that and make sure there was no company secrets that I exposed beforehand, or sometimes Andrew and I are friends. Okay, he was my boss for some time. He was a coworker for some time. Our relationship has changed. He's not my boss anymore, so we're friends again. But even when we were boss and employee and reporter, we had a very friendly relationship. Ditto with Scott. He put the hammer down when he needs to, but by and large, it was a convivial boss-employee relationship, which is probably why he left. I can't manage Rush. He's just friendly and won't do what I say. Okay, what do we got here? Who all turned up whilst we were gabbing about that? What? Both? Did I miss? Abu Bakr al-Hajj came in too. My other favorite name. Assalamu alaikum, my friend. Abu Bakr al-Hajj and Muhammad al-Abayad. Wow, nice. Good to see you both. Oh, did I miss something? Yeah. JJV. Am I the only person who calls you that? I apologize. I look up your name beforehand, before the show, to see if where I might know you from, and I've got some guesses. I know we don't know each other, but there's not many John Joseph Volks listed when you do a search on that name. I may be paranoid, but no Android. The paranoid Android. Boy, there's, somebody's probably using that as a name in Reddit or something somewhere. Odysseus is here. Good to see you, my friend. I have not seen you in a while. Scott J, greetings. New NVIDIA driver just dropped for those using GPUs. That is the biggest bug in long-term release Ubuntu right now. If you're using NVIDIA, you're going to have problems. It's unfortunate. I like Ubuntu, but I would not use an NVIDIA card in one right now. On all the support forums, those are the top issues by far and away. Dave's chat with Andrew revealed on live stream reminds me of another one that got displayed on an AMA. That wasn't mine. That's all I can tell you. I reviewed it first. Yes, Janelle is absolutely still at Total Sem. We had a company meeting today. We have this big U-shaped round table that we all get here in the Houston office, and then with all the other offices and independent home workers who can't go into offices, we all do that. I sat right next to Janelle today. We whispered to each other and shared notes, past notes in class when we were muted. Reading messages here. You gonna banhammer me, huh? Tell you what, I thought Dave would get my... Oh, I missed the Radiohead reference. I'm sorry. I read that too quickly. I was listening to Radiohead just tonight. On whatever channel that's on now. On Sirius. Probably 12, whatever that is, pop rock or something. All right, well, that's pretty. I got 6 minutes to wind up for a change. Anything here that I want to... I guess I can do this, and you'll wind up seeing this again next week, but let's have a tad of fun. So this is what you see when you install Teams, and we're going to install it with Snap. I won't repeat all my Snap versus apt stuff next week. We'll just get right into it and do it, but it's just so dead simple to install. I'll tell you how to do it right now. All you got to do is sudo snap install Teams-4-Linux. And it goes buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. Here's how much space we're going to take up. Sure you want to do it? Yes. Give me your account password to make sure you can do it. Enter buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. And it's in. And then you go hit that same thing that I did, the grid down in the lower left. Click it, go in to the top menu, type in Teams. And it says, okay, well, this is the first time I've run on this machine. So first of all, give me a login name and a password. So that was my first fear. I'm using my work account. I want to use this for work. So I put in my work account number and the password associated with that. Click the sign in. Came right up. Nice and cool. And then step number one for me, there's very little configuration you have to do in Teams, whatever makes you happy. Pick your cameras, pick your audio input and output, stuff like that. And for me, the one thing that I've got to do, you can see it here on my Steam. You can see it here, dark mode. Almost everything is dark mode. I switched LinkedIn to dark mode the other day. It's a whole new experience. So I fired up a camera, and this is a crappy, junky camera. It did a nice job. Audio from that camera is crappy and junky, but I ordered a pair of new cameras so that I can begin that full transition over to the Linux box. I can run my OBS over there. I can certainly run Teams over there. And so it's very cool. It's very magic. Nobody's digging on the shirt yet. I got the OSI model on one side and the TCP/IP model on the other side. Tulwood has added you to their friends list on Steam. Okay. Yeah, my Steam name is Blood Rush TX. By all means, friend me. I don't have so many friends. I'm not in the Mike situation where you can't friend me because I have too many friends. Scott's my friend. Look up Scarhart. H-A-R-T. All right, reading my notes here. Sandbox, non-sandboxed, internal and externals. One thing I will mention to you about snaps. When you do a search in the Snap store, they call it, you say snap, find, and then you put in a keyword in there, and it shows you all the snaps that are in there that include in their names and their descriptions the keyword. So I did snap, find, Teams. Have I got enough time to show you this? No, it's 58. But what you're going to see is a list of all the results, and then there's going to be a developer name, and there's going to be some other information. And beside some of the developer names is a green check mark, and beside others is nothing. Or sometimes in slightly older days, there was an asterisk. And so I looked that up. I got just enough time to tell you this and end the show on time. Green check marks mean verified developer. So I went down the rabbit hole. What does it take to be a verified developer? And I went to the snapcraft.io website and their support forum. That's where they address this. And there was a person who posted exactly that question 5 years ago, 2018. How do you become a verified developer? The answer, posted at that time. We've currently verified a selected group of developers on the Snap Store. We have no current plans to expand that much more widely, nor publish details of the process for becoming verified. Okay, that's 5 years ago. Let's see what's happened in 5 years. February 23. Last month, somebody posted the identical question. And the answer was, same thing we said in 2018. So you cannot be a Snapcraft verified developer. Man, I just don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that. They want to rule the world with and have the package management system, but they ain't getting it. Hey, let's wind this thing up. This has been fun as ever and always. More viewers every time. Having a good time with advertising and marketing it. We looked at how to access the built-in VNC server in Ubuntu using the Microsoft Remote Desktop tool. This is an answer to a common question for people who study for various certifications. Common question: how do I remember all these utilities for a CompTIA test or any other test like MSTSC or RDP? Here's the answer: use it. After you do this a couple of times, you're going to know that RDP uses a program or is launched by a program called MSTSC, and that's what the remote desktop tool is. So next week, we'll do Teams. And with that, we're going to close this thing down. Ever and always fun. I wish you a great rest of the week. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy. And if at all possible, call or visit your parents. This has been Dave Rush, and this is ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything digital alchemy. So never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, good night. I'll see you on ADRAMADA next Thursday and on the Monday AMA. Until then,